Hello, Rob from Fountain Pen Journey with a review of the Platinum Procyon Citron Yellow fountain pen. Now, I recently got into platinum fountain pens, mainly kicked off with the Platinum Prefounte in early 2020, and I was actually really impressed with the nibs. That was my first proper foray into Japanese fountain pens, and since then I've really grown a real love of Japanese fountain pens and bought more platinum fountain pens. And the Procyon costs a little bit more than some of the other fountain pens from Japan, but this was a gift from my wife. And I actually really wanted a yellow pen. I like yellow fountain pens, particularly because, in my view, any ink colour goes with them. Sometimes you have to think, well, you know, I've chosen a blue fountain pen and I'm going to have to go with a blue ink or a black ink maybe. Yellow, pretty much every colour ink goes in those. So here we go. Review of the Platinum. Let me just get my ink notes here as well, because the ink is a bit of an issue for me. Anyway, so this is the Platinum Procyon. This is the Citron Yellow colour, the medium nib, and it's a decently sized metal fountain pen. You'd be mistaken for thinking it's a plastic fountain pen, but here's metal cap, metal barrel. But it's got this, it's hard to describe. It's like a satin finish to it, which feels really nice. It's quite tactile. Some people may liken it slightly to a terracotta pot with a bit of a fine sort of polish to it. It's got that sort of, it's smooth, but there is texture there. It's very hard to explain. Now the Citron Yellow finish, this finish here, this colour, is a really, really nice colour. It's a muted yellow. It's like a pale 60s, 70s worktop colour. It's hard to explain, but it is not a bright yellow. It's a nice, there's a tint of green in there as well. Imagine a slightly underripe lemon. It's that type of yellow, and I think Citron Yellow actually suits this colour, the name, very, very well. So let's have a look at the pen. I mean, on top you've got this slightly pointed cap, which unfortunately, because it is pointed, it does tend to pick up a few marks when you have it, say, cap down somewhere in a pen pot. So wipe that off there. So you can see that slightly conical domed finial up there. Steel clip, metal clip, chromed, which doesn't have an awful lot about it, but it's a decent long clip, quite tight, springy. We can see down here Platinum, made in Japan, and Procyon on that side with a metal cap band at the base. The barrel does taper down towards the end, and there's no finial or anything there, and it's a decent sized pen. I shall compare it to a Lamy All-Star in gold, and as you can see, they are pretty much identical lengths. Pop that there for a moment. Uncap. Now we have metal threads, black plastic section, which is actually quite a good thing, because I think that this, if you're worried about metal sections, then the slipperiness of them, then this is a good thing. It's not the longest, but it's comfortable. For my grip, no problem whatsoever. The step up is quite significant, but that's well out of the way. The threads are not really noticeable, and we'll talk about the threads in a moment. The cap itself, there is a black cap liner in there. I never have any issues with the nib drying out. Uncap it. As you can see, decent length, decent size. Let's stop these from rolling around too much. This is not easy. Side by side with the Lamy. So about a centimetre, maybe about 13 millimetres shorter than the All-Star. Post that, and this pen does post. It's quite deep, but I wouldn't have said it was hugely. It's secure, but not the greatest. It's all right. And the All-Star is obviously a little bit longer there, as you can see. Let's just move that into the centre of the frame for you. So a little bit longer posted. I generally don't post my pens, and this Platinum Procyon is not a pen that I really write with posted, because as you can see, it is quite long, but there's no real back weighting there. The centre of balance is about here, so that rests quite nicely on my hand there, and no issues whatsoever. And it does post very, very well. Not particularly securely, but it's good. It's good. I am a little bit concerned that this finish could get a bit marked up if you post it. You could get a few scuffs on there. And we have the steel platinum winged nib and a black plastic feed there. So yeah, comfortable size. Unscrew this. Takes platinum cartridges or a platinum converter. Screw that back down. Cap. Screw to uncap. Takes less than one turn, which is great. However, I'm going to try and do this near the microphone. There is a bit of roughness, I suppose. I don't know whether you can hear that, but there is some. It's like there's very, very small burrs on these threads. Excuse me. Try and get this to focus. Very, very difficult, but it's almost like those burrs are not 100%. Burrs rather, threads rather, are not 100%. I'm getting some gunk off there. Let me just give that a bit of a wipe. So these threads are not the smoothest, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, it's good the fact that it doesn't actually take many turns to uncap, but you feel a little bit of something where it's perhaps not that well machined, which is a bit of a shame for the price of this pen. But overall, I think it's exceedingly well made, and it's a good quality metal pen. It's not overly heavy. There's a nice weight to it. It's heavier than the Lamy All-Star, but not by very much. So there is more of a substantial weight to it, which is really good. It feels comfortable without being too much, if you know what I mean. It's one of these things where I think if you picked it up, you know it's not a plastic pen, but it's not so heavy that you say, yeah, this is definitely an all-metal pen. It's a really, really good, comfortable weight. And as I said, when it is posted, you know, that the whole balance of the pen is actually really, really good. So let's just pop that back on, and I shall get my Rhodia pad so that we can do the writing sample and just double check the ink in this, because this pen comes with a it's platinum blue black, I think, the ink cartridge, but it also seems to come with 3 cartridges of the platinum mixable inks. Now obviously they're in cartridges, so you can't mix them, and I've been using this pen with the dark violet ink cartridge that came with it. There are a couple of other ones, and I thought, no, dark violet will actually look really good with this pen, but the ink itself is a terrible colour, as you will see. So, Platinum Procyon. Procyon Citron Yellow. And this is the medium. There are other nib options available with these pens. Now, it is a medium, but remember this is a Japanese fountain pen, Japanese nib, so it's a Japanese medium, which is much more towards the, I'd say, from this particular nib, it's more of a medium to fine. It's not the broadest medium nib. We'll talk more about the nib in a moment. And I'd say it's medium wetness. It's not the wettest, but remember that we're talking about Japanese medium here, so it's not as wet as you would get with a Western medium, but the ink flow is really good. No issues with this pen at all. The nib, the ink flow's really great. This is a good pen for writing for long periods with, because it is comfortable. The matte finish is quite tactile, and the cap's a decent enough size. I like holding the cap, so yeah, nice tactile finish. I'll just write down the ink name. And as we can see from that patch of ink there, it's a strange, dark, sort of purpley brown colour. Not a very pleasant colour at all. I was hoping for something which was more violet coloured to go with this pen, but unfortunately Platinum Dark Violet is not a colour that I would ever choose, and I don't even know how you'd mix this with another ink if you got the bottled version of these inks, because I can imagine if you mix this Platinum Dark Violet in with anything else, you're going to just get brown ink. So what do I think about the nib? It's smooth. There is nothing wrong with this, and it needs absolutely no pressure to write with. I'm applying more pressure, and all it does is squeeze more ink out, but really not a lot. So it's effortless to write with, but it is by no means a flex nib. It's a steel nib. I wouldn't flex it. Reverse writing is smooth, a little bit more feedback because you're away from a lot of the tipping material, but this then becomes more of an extra fine, but it keeps up well, no issues from that point of view. Take the nib back round, and then you can see the two compared to each other. So it's a really good writer, and I think this is typical of the Japanese fountain pens, even the cheaper ones that I've tried so far, is the fact that it writes really well. You get a consistent writing experience, you get a good writing experience, there's no issues writing for long periods, it's effortless. There is some feedback, and I would say, you know, this whole thing with Japanese nibs having pencil-like feedback, yeah, I would say that it does feel a little bit more like a pencil, but it is by no means awful feedback. It's very pleasant feedback, and it's a joy to write with. So I'm really impressed with the Platinum Procyon. I like this Citroen Yellow version of this fountain pen. I think it's really good. It's a little step up in price from your cheap pens, but I think it's worth it because it isn't hugely overpriced, and especially when you look at the likes of some of the fountain pens from, say, Twisby, for example. It's cheaper than those if you can get a discount. I mean, I'll put in the description down below my Cult Pens Mention Me referral link. If you buy this pen from Cult Pens, you can get 10% off. Site-wide, I believe it is. It seems to be only for new customers only, which is kind of annoying, but it's worth a shot. So if you can get the 10% off, then that really does bring the price down to make this pen much more affordable and better value. So it's well worth considering that if you are in the market for buying one of these fountain pens. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. Do please subscribe if and turn on all notifications if you're interested in perhaps learning more about my fountain pen journey into Japan, because I will be doing more Japanese fountain pen reviews this year. So thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye.